And coming in for us viewers, we have visuals of the Prime Minister meeting the Chief Executive Officer of Airline and Aerospace Major Boeing, that's David L. Calhoun. And this is an important meeting given that India, via the Tata-owned airline Air India, has placed an order for at least 200 Boeing aircraft. It's one of the largest aviation deals in history and one of two massive aviation deals and orders placed by Indian Airlines in just the last 4 months. We heard Prime Minister Modi reference this deal in his address to the US Capitol yesterday. He said, when India makes an order for aircraft, 1 million people get jobs in 44 American states. That tells you the significance of this deal and of this meeting. This is happening right after the Prime Minister also met some of the biggest tech companies' chiefs. We'd seen the visuals there of him and US President Biden meeting with Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, Tim Cook, Mukesh Ambani, Anand Mahindra, and many other industry titans from both India and the US. And this, subsequent to that, is a one-on-one meeting with the top representative of Boeing. Boeing, of course, one of the two global makers of large-scale and large-size commercial aircraft. The only American manufacturer. It is an American behemoth, and India has placed an order for 200 plus Boeing aircraft, which will start delivering in the next couple of years and will proliferate within the country to increase our domestic travel and tourism by air, and also large-bodied aircraft that will help Indian Airlines travel further distances, travel abroad, decrease the cost of flying, make it more economical. These are visuals coming to us from Washington, D.C. It's the last leg of the Prime Minister's visit. He is shortly to address an event of the Indian diaspora. There are a lot of people who are waiting to hear what he has to say. The theme of that event is going to be about how the Indian diaspora have contributed to the growth of India. So it is a ramification that is felt in India that he is going to speak to them about. But right from the start of the Prime Minister going to the US, we've seen how meetings with very big American companies, very influential American companies, have been top of the agenda. It started with Elon Musk. Elon Musk was at the Prime Minister's hotel almost within hours of the Indian delegation reaching there. And now we have also the Chief Executive Officer of Boeing. We've also seen earlier today the Prime Minister address the U.S. State Department's luncheon, where he and U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris each made an address. Anthony Blinken spoke about how America, or rather India, is part of their daily life in America. Kamala Harris, of course, who has Indian roots, spoke about her grandfather, her mother, who had emigrated from India in the year 1958, and how she inspired her and culminated in her becoming the vice president, the first vice president of Indian origin in the United States. And then the Prime Minister also addressed the U.S. State Department and its staffers there. We also have received inputs of the menu, because the fact that America is hosting this state visit has been such an important theme and really rolling out the red carpet. These are some of the details that have been trickling in, rich details of the importance that America has given to this visit by the Prime Minister. Indianness is a big theme. So, for instance, in the U.S. State Department luncheon, samosa, khichdi, mango halwa, masala chai were some of the items that were served. And these are all things that have found mention among the many speeches that we've heard. In the U.S. Capitol, for instance, the Prime Minister made a number of mentions. Food does unite, that is also a given. This right now, however, is economy and business. This is a very important meeting on the big deal that India has signed with aerospace major Boeing. It is one of the big aviation deals, the other, of course, being in the other side in defense aviation, where GE will now produce engines via technology transfer for India, technology transfer for an extent, and that will really power India's indigenous aircraft production program. We've had the Tejas aircraft being a big success, and now the GE engines are all set to take that to the next level. There have been a number of other very crucial deals that have been signed with Boston Atomics for the Reaper drone, and also going beyond just aviation into the space industry. ISRO and NASA are going to collaborate. India has signed on to the Artemis Accords. India will participate in a mission that will send next year an Indian astronaut to the International Space Station. That will be a very, very historic event. And so a number of very important deals being signed on this visit. It's a total reset of India's relationship with the United States. And this deal, in many ways, was the first herald of that. It was a sign of things to come. It really created global news headlines because of the significance of a country placing an order. The order itself was for 470 airlines. The remaining half is with the European aviation major Airbus. But the American company really making a lot from this deal, both in terms of just the revenue impact, but also in terms of the jobs that are created as a result. And jobs are a very key metric in American politics, bigger, one would say, than, say, GDP for many other countries. Jobs is what all the American politicians talk about in their agenda for the economy. Aside from just placing the order for the aircraft, India has also signed a $100 million agreement with Boeing for the training of some 31,000 pilots that are likely to be required for the Indian civil aviation industry in the next couple of decades. This is Prime Minister Modi on the screen before you, continuing his engagements, and I dare say there are more to come in the next couple of hours before he addresses the Indian diaspora. Subsequent to that, of course, it's not a direct return. He's also a state guest at Egypt. He'll be landing in Cairo shortly after he departs from America, but the business in America continues to take place. Prime Minister meeting number of key industry titans. A number of these we've seen him meet multiple times. We've seen a lot of global CEOs making a beeline for the Prime Minister's office in India when they visit. Tim Cook, for instance, was in India just 2 months ago when he was opening the India stores of Apple. And now, most certainly, there are follow-ups also happening in America. A short while earlier, when we'd seen PM Modi and Joe Biden get on a table with the chief executives and chairmen of top technology companies, they'd also exchanged a shot. And to tell us a little bit more about it, we have Aishwarya Kapoor, our political editor, joining us from Washington, D.C. Aishwarya, what are we seeing and what is the Prime Minister's agenda now?
Well, Ankit, within the next couple of hours, you will see the massive community event which will begin here in Washington, D.C., and that will be the last event as far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned. It's raining here in D.C. We are just walking towards the Ronald Reagan Center where the community event is. So it is said to be that Prime Minister Modi is known to break his own records. If you remember Madison Square Garden, Howdy Modi, every time we've seen that how Prime Minister Modi's events are bigger than the last time. And on your screens right now, this is the hotel of Prime Minister.
Audio some issue, is that you?
Aishwarya sharing details of what's going to happen in the next couple of hours. Like he's telling us, it's a rainy day in Washington, and it has been so the last few days. One can never forget the visuals from the Prime Minister landing in DC, where in the pouring rain we had a majestic ceremonial welcome for the Prime Minister. I'm told we have Aishwarya back on the phone with us. Aishwarya, over to you.
Ankit, I've been speaking all this very long, and the only time what I've been trying to tell you that this is a historic visit, right from Prime Minister Modi landing in New York, the soft diplomacy, getting more than 180 countries together, performing yoga, sending a message of peace to the world, to that historic welcome in the White House for the first time in the history, in the American history, and this is not according to Indian, but according to American historians, that the gates of White House were open for any political leader. Otherwise, such events only happen when America chooses a new president. But this was historic.
We have Aishwarya there in Washington, D.C. He's been speaking about the event that the Prime Minister will address, where he'll speak to about 600 members of the Indian diaspora, with many others watching on their screens. We also, just a short while earlier, heard the Prime Minister speak at the State Department's luncheon. Let's just take a listen to what he had said there.